Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. Tom and I are back with another episode of Found Footage Fridays.
And excited to talk about a movie that I have seen
Yeah.
a couple times now, and you just watched for the first time.
Yeah, so what are we talking about today, since this was one that you had seen?
We are talking about Followed, which was filmed in 2018, so it's not that old. You see this one pop up here and there on people's lists as one that maybe you should take a look at.
Yeah, this is one I'd never heard of.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's in sort of this really popular subgenre of found footage right now, which is, YouTubers and live streamers and that sort of stuff.
Bloggers, content creators, yeah.
Which I would think would be of interest to you as a...
It is. No, I like it. I think one of the things that makes it appealing is because we're not doing these found footage movies through just one perspective anymore. We're getting all these different things because we're branching out based on what's being used right now, technology wise, society wise. It's pretty interesting.
And so I guess the general plot of this is that on Halloween night, he's looking for a video to really sort of get a lot of views, to really generate some subscribers for his channel. So he's going all out, and they have plans to basically set up shop in this really haunted location for 3 nights and see what happens. And it's a hotel, the Lenox Hotel, which feels like it could be a real hotel. And bad stuff happens. Right? Without spoiling too much, a lot of bad stuff happens.
Yeah. Well, and you were just talking in last week's episode about the time frame. This is 1 hour and 36 minutes.
Is it? Yeah, there's this very small. This is actually long. This is like a few minutes long.
Longer than the usual, which is crazy.
Yep.
So you can watch this on Tubi right now. It's on Tubi. This got a 4.9 out of 10 on IMDb, a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
And a 68% on the Google.
On the Google. Okay. So we got to do our ratings now. Should I go first this time?
You go first this time. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This is my gut. I really like this movie. So I am going to give it an 8 out of 10 tapes.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. That's a solid rating for me.
I agree. My rating. I love we come up with these. We're like thinking about it right as it's time to say them.
Well, it changes second to second.
No, it does. And then it changes while you're watching it, which you've mentioned before. It changes after you think about it. It's just, I'm going to say I'm going a little bit lower. I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10.
That's all right.
Yeah. The parts that I liked, I loved. And the parts that didn't, and then there were some parts that just didn't keep me super engaged off and on.
Yeah. So. Similarly, there are parts that I love, that I really love. There are some super, super scary moments in found footage. I also like the general setup of the movie. I will always be down for a movie where the concept is a bunch of filmmakers going into a haunted place and going to spend the night. I mean, you have me. It's not going to take much. As far as I am concerned. That was great. If you like sort of the cartoony YouTube streamer, he was like a caricature, right?
He's really silly.
Really silly. I mean, he's in this, so you might like it if you're that kind of person. I mean, there's a lot I want to say and want to talk about this movie, but it's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't think that as far as weaknesses go, any of the scares were weak. I don't think. No. I think the scares were all, even the more subtle moments in the beginning, or towards the beginning, I should say, they were all very well done. And it was obvious, at least to me as a viewer, that these moments were chosen very carefully, which is always something I'll say that over and over again, always something I appreciate, because that attention to deciding when to do these moments and how to make them and making them effective is so pivotal to making movies scary.
Yeah.
And I really liked that part about it. I think the only thing is, it's so funny because last week I was like, I didn't care about any of the characters because they didn't like make me care about them. Yeah. I felt like with these, they tried too hard to make me care about them.
I get it. Yep. There was
with the relationships and the dog piling, which I'm in my 30s. I'm not doing that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't.
They like really like each other, all these friends. Yeah. Yeah. Which was fun. I mean, yeah, they really wanted to show you how close they were.
Sure. And then they add the element later with the guy's girlfriend. I mean, I just, I guess I've never thought about it. I guess it's something that just has like a very specific line for me where it's either not enough or it's too much and they both don't do great for me.
Yep. I totally get that. I don't have like a ton, honestly, I don't have a ton of negatives for this movie. I really just really like this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into spoilers or?
I want to go right into it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it. Take it away.
I think the setup and how the whole movie is framed is really unique in that it starts off like with somebody heavy breathing and basically scrolling through a bunch of YouTube videos. And that sort of is a backdrop for the entire movie, which I really liked. And I didn't know what it meant. The whole movie, you're trying to figure out what is this? Who is this doing the heavy breathing? Is this a supernatural figure? Is it not? And I really liked that about it. It was really creepy. The lore of this hotel, we talk about lore a lot.
Yeah.
With a lot of legend and a lot of things they can sort of pull on that supposedly happened at this hotel that they go to, which are all terrible and really creepy. And any rational human wouldn't want to actually spend an evening in this space. So that was all great. It's on Halloween. I mean, you can't go wrong. Any film that's set on Halloween is a good start.
I agree.
I thought, like, as a sort of caricature of a YouTube streamer, I thought pretty believable. Not like I didn't think he was a real person, but I thought like he did a good job.
Well, and he's like a non-believer, but he does these spooky things, and he's like, oh, I want to get all these followers, or I mean these subscribers, so I can get this sponsorship, basically. And I'm always like, I do think that from a character standpoint, I do like when people start out as a non-believer and then they're put in these situations where they don't have a choice but to believe anymore. Like I do like things like that. Very like grave encounters. You start out and you're like, oh, it's a bunch of BS and we've never seen anything that's real. It's all whatever. And then it's like put in a situation where they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we were wrong. And I think all of that was done. I think he kind of reminds me of other YouTubers. He wasn't maybe as like much of a jerk as the ones that I'm thinking in my head, but he did seem like a genuine content creator, like somebody who's out there to do this, to get the views, to do whatever. So I did believe him.
And they give him a real reason to, similar to the last movie we actually talked about, The Tunnel. In that movie, the protagonist needs to keep filming because she thinks she's going to lose her job if she doesn't get the story. And in this movie, he thinks he's going to lose his wife if he doesn't get enough views and make enough money to support their family. So there's a real reason for
motivation.
Motivation to keep on filming, which is super important in found footage. There are definitely moments why in this movie, like most of them, where you're like, what the hell are you doing? Get out of there. And yet he keeps filming. I thought that was really believable. See here. Thought I forgot what I was going to say. I totally cut this part out.
I think the other thing too is like when you're talking about someone going into a situation as a non-believer, I do think naturally those people are going to push those boundaries further than people who do believe. I feel like it takes a little more to get non-believers scared and uncomfortable in those situations, because they rationalize things. They're like, oh, well, this is like, I think one of my favorite like sequences is the elevator game.
Oh, it's the best sequence.
Yeah, it's like, it's so good and unsettling and really like, ooh, you know, like, and I feel like if a believer wouldn't do that, I feel like a believer would be like, mm-mm.
And even like as that scene is slowly unfolding, you see him getting more and more uncomfortable. Like when he's the last button, the last floor he has to go to. That's so well done. And then he does step out on the floor. He thinks he's in the clear, and then he's not. And that, what does she whisper to him? Like, "Oh, where are you going?" It's Megan Kim is the person who's supposedly
the person who's went missing.
Yep, on the elevator. That scene is super creepy. There are a lot of like great sort of like down the hallway sort of shots.
Yeah.
The lighting, the red lighting.
All of the scares are super effective. That neck break thing.
Oh, great. That's creepy. Everything with the basement is really creepy and well done too.
I agree.
There's a very Freddy Krueger-ish sort of basement
area in the basement.
Boiler room.
Yes.
Which was really good. I think my only problems with this movie are more as far as the main character or the protagonist at the end. What exactly did happen at the end to him, and exactly how was he connected to the entire plot of the story? Because I think I know who he is supposed to be, but then what happens at the end? Was there a supernatural element? Was it him sort of setting up a lot of this? Is it both? I was confused at the end.
I think the way that I processed it after I watched it was like, so you know, the whole thing with like seeing the videos and stuff as like a point of view from like a first person point of view, and we don't know who's doing it. So they actually do that a lot in that movie I was telling you about called Mom, Mother of Monsters.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so I initially was like, I had in my head, and I won't say anything because you haven't seen that yet, but I had in my head what I thought they were, the direction that was going. But I mean, yeah, I took it as like, I took it as there was like a something, like, I don't think he did any of that on his own. Like, I didn't feel like it was just like he just went home. I felt like he was still being tormented. I felt like there was still a connection, or an attachment rather. I felt like he just, like, just, I don't know, like, just kind of wasn't really, I guess, in control anymore. And his last message or whatever, where he's like kind of falling apart, was like, I don't know, weird. Like, it was almost, I don't know. I guess the best way I can think to describe it is like he got a moment to be in control again. I don't know. It's weird. Like,
so he's the heavy breather, right? It's him.
Yeah, I think so. That's how, I mean, that's what I got out of it.
And so, but what is there a supernatural element to him, or is it he just? I mean, the hotel is haunted, right? Like, it really is haunted. It wasn't just because they're taking pills the whole time. So the filmmakers give you a reason to say,
that's true.
Wait, are they actually seeing all of these things? Is it really haunted, or are they hallucinating? And I think that might be a genuine possibility, is because there are plenty of other people in the hotel that you see them running past
that seem fine,
don't see anything, and who seem totally fine. There's other people staying at the hotel who are not affected. So we're like, are they just affected because of his backstory and because he's like tormenting the spirits or something like that? They say that
it kind of opens up the door, right? And I think when you're talking about vulnerability, like, people who are vulnerable, who open themselves up, are more likely to experience things, I'm just generally speaking, than people who are like, no. So it's like, if you take something, then you're obviously going to not be as, you know, like, your state of mind is not going to be the same. So I feel like it just leaves you more open to the possibility. But I actually never thought of it that way. I never thought about the possibility that none of that was real. I just assumed that because they did that, they antagonized, they played this game, he was there to do this. He kind of brought it on himself, and then naturally the people around him were affected as well. But he says at the end, he's like, he hasn't heard from them, the two two friends.
They just ran off maybe, or something. And then, but I guess there are other people. It's not just them. There's like the old lady who like jumps out the window or something like that.
Yes.
It's not just them. And then the person, the editor who kind of loses it. We don't have any information that she's been taking those pills either.
That's true. I mean, she has like the nosebleed, and then she just gets kind of well. And then there's like that weird sequence where I'm trying to think. I'm like, man, I'm wondering if I'm mixing this up, but I'm pretty sure this is this movie where the people in the mask show up. Was that this one?
Yep, that's it. That happens. One guy in a mask, and it ends up being just a guy. I don't think it ends up being.
But it was like, what the? Yeah, like I don't know.
It was like the guy from the street who had been like doing drugs or something like that. Was chasing them down, but he happened to be wearing a terrifying mask.
Oh, right. And then the security team shows up.
Yeah,
and they escort him out. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about it from the perspective that it might not be real.
Yeah. But a lot of those, a lot of the camera angles you'll see in like Paranormal Activity where they're sleeping and the camera is still on. It's one of the more common sort of cliches in found footage. Actually, there are a lot of sort of things that are cliche in these films, which I don't always mind, but in this movie, definitely some of those shots with they're all sleeping and something gets knocked over, or the door sort of opens as they're sleeping and closes again.
We see like a form at one point, it like glitches, and there's like
glitches
thing like over their or next to their bed, I guess is.
Yeah. Like, this movie is like filled with like that glitch effect where something is wrong with the footage, and in the midst of it you see a shape or a face or hear a weird creepy sound.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that in this movie.
And that is one thing in found footage. Like I feel like I don't feel this way about Followed, but there are a lot of found footage movies where that technique is used instead of doing something else to make the scare effective. It's like it's just this overly used. I didn't feel that way about it in this, because I think in between the sequences like that, we're still getting a lot of other good stuff that's not necessarily like cop out moves like that, where it's just like glitch effect. It's like, and those have to be, in my opinion, they have to be timed and sporadic. They can't just be, that's all that happens is there's a glitch effect and some weird shit goes down. Like it can't be like that. I don't like that. No,
but I mean, some genuinely scary sort of shots, in the bedroom, there are jump scares, sure, as well, but like, just like haunting scenes. Like if you like ghosts and that sort of element, this is your found footage film. I think it's got a lot of that.
And then when you get to the basement / boiler area at the end, it's just like insanity. Like there's like everything that we've been seeing these pieces of. It's like everything is just like
thrown at you. Yep. That was a lot of like cats screaming, and there's a lot of backstory on the main character that he sort of like unfolds, which is kind of cool too throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Which is definitely connected in some way to the history of the hotel. Like he's probably, there's a story of a boy who escapes a murder there. He's probably him.
Or right. And the cat thing came from The Friend.
The Friend story, yes, the Friend.
The Friend story about the hanging.
That's creepy too. Just there's that actually towards the beginning of the movie, it's sort of random, but they're just sitting in the car, and the friend is the believer, right?
Yes.
The religious believer.
Yes.
And kind of freaks out when the protagonist is saying like, "Oh, it's all fake, it's not real," and his friend.
He's like, "No, man." Like
he tells a story, about this time he saw a ghost, and it's this terrifying story about like him seeing a child suddenly standing there holding a cat like on a noose or something like that. Like no, thank you. Like that was a little like it reminds me of, you've seen Gremlins, right? Have you seen the movie Gremlins? Okay. I always laugh about this scene. It's totally like out of out of nowhere, but he's like walking with her to her back to her house, and she suddenly tells that
the story
story
about Santa, the fake Santa
her father, like falling down the chimney, and
oh my god!
And, it's just like, and that's why I don't celebrate Christmas, or so that's when I stopped believing in Santa Claus. And I mean, and it's just like it's so awful, and you can't help but laugh because it's so like
out of place.
And that is that scene with this friend, and that's what I thought of when I saw this.
When I did I watched Gremlins every around Christmas season, and this last time I watched it, I had kind of forgotten about that. So I'm like, watching this movie that I love, that I've seen 100 times, and she gets to that part, and I was like, why do I not remember that? Like, I did not remember the story about her dad dying in the chimney. Like, I didn't remember that story.
It's so terrible. And then she just like shuts the door and goes inside.
And that's the end of that moment. And I don't.
Sorry, that's a little more extreme, but it's like that.
It seems out of place. Yeah.
There my brain goes. It's a Gremlins. Always the Gremlins.
Well, and as soon as I heard the cat in the basement, I was like, "Oh, please don't show it! Please don't show it! Please don't show it!" Like, I was so nervous that we were going to see it, and I didn't want to see it.
That scene though, like it really does. I said it's sort of like Freddy Kruegerish, but like you expect to suddenly see the nails on the boiler down there, like it's creepy. Yeah, creepy. The glowing furnaces and all that. Like that a lot. There's some tense moments. There's a lot of great buildup. I don't know. I think my biggest questions are like exactly what happened. Is sort of I was a little bit confused myself by what happened at the end of the movie. Wow. There was a great scene of practical effects that I really liked in the basement, where all these like mannequin arms are like flying at him when he's on the floor. I love that. That was very cool.
Talking about it having like a lot of tropes, a lot of it really does. Like I get like watching it, I wasn't necessarily thinking about that side of it, but we get the Paranormal Activity shadow over the bed. We get the glitching. We have these this like lore, like because the moments with the elevator game made this feel like a foreign movie to me. Like it made it. Yeah, so it has like all of these little things, and mannequins are terrifying. Do you know how many horror games there are solely based off mannequins? Because they're terrifying.
It really is like they put a ton of like creepy shit just into one movie, and
they did. Like they picked all these things, like messed up necks. Necks are a trigger for people.
Like even have like the cartoonish interview with the expert who's written he's written a book. He's like the professor who's written a book about this haunted place, and he's like cartoonishly bad. But like they have him in this movie, and even just the idea that they are they're not supernatural investigators, but this guy goes around. I wrote down exactly how he described his program. His web series is that he's in search of sick and twisted new videos each week, and he just goes to all these different freaky places. So even like that setup is like overdone, that sort of thing. I actually took so many notes on here that I'm having to scroll through all these, and that's the struggle.
Really?
I did. I wrote a lot.
So you wrote these as you were watching, or before?
I did as I was watching. It's really good. Like this is one you just want to like have a quick scare. I could see this being really enjoyable for a lot of people,
especially for people who like the paranormal found footage.
That's what I mean. Yes,
specifically. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not super complicated or anything, but it's
is one I would tell people to watch. I know I wasn't like super good to it rating wise, but I think I just am like I struggled with being engaged too often. I don't know why. Maybe I need to rewatch it. You know, like
wait, you watch which one? This one?
This one. Followed. Like maybe this is one that I need to revisit. Maybe I had just watched The Tunnel, so I wasn't in a good place to watch. You know what I mean? Like
it's good on rewatch. Like I don't rewatch a lot of found footage because I feel like
no, me either. Specific ones.
But this one I did because we were talking about it. I rewatched it and I enjoyed it just as much on the second view.
I think I'm gonna rewatch it. But I just for some reason that was the one thing I struggled with, and that's I'm a little less forgiving when it can't keep my attention.
Yep, interesting.
But I definitely this is one I would tell people to watch, especially people I know that like the spooky ones, like ghost ones.
This is a good one to watch in October. I think that time of year in the fall, this would be great. A great found footage film for that time of year.
I totally agree.
It's probably on every like paranormal found footage list, I would say.
Yeah, and I think it is true. Like, I mean, even movies that I love have scares that fell flat. This didn't have that. Every scare that they delivered was well executed. And because there is such a variety, you never get used to it. It's not one of those things where you're watching jump scare after jump scare after jump scare, and you're like, all right, this is gonna be a jump scare, this is gonna be like I never felt that way. The scares are really well done.
And there are layers to this movie. It's not just these people. There's a story, there's a backstory for the main character. There's a little bit of a side. I don't want to say romance because it's not really, but there's a little bit of a thing with two of the characters who have a little thing going on.
Which I'm going to be honest, made the dog pile worse for me. I was like, I know that's such a stupid thing to get hung up on, but that part made me uncomfortable. I was like,
that was some of the least believable stuff. Was the relationship of the three of them together was like. Because I actually was like, I didn't even think. Actually, that's a big problem I had at the beginning of the movie when they first introduced her character. I didn't even think she was like knew them that well or was like that close.
It kind of felt like she either really didn't like them or they didn't know each other that well.
And then there's a scene with them like having a pillow fight, and she's sharing a hotel room with them. Yeah, like
it did seem a little weird. Maybe it was an afterthought. Maybe they started out wanting her to be estranged, and they were like, "No, let's make them besties." Like that part was just really strange. I don't know. The dog pile thing, I got hung up on that.
Maybe it was just the actors were having so much fun, like they just. I don't know.
Maybe that wasn't even supposed to happen.
And then there was the side story with his wife, who was pregnant, and. I feel like that was almost like unnecessary.
That whole thing
horrible.
They totally went 7 with that because she gets decapitated, and I'm like, oh, and then we didn't talk about this, but the YouTuber at the end, that little bratty kid, breaks down the police tape. He's like, "This is where," I forgot the other guy.
That was ridiculous. Yeah,
I was like.
Yeah,
but see that I will say this about that particular scene when it's got that new YouTuber and he goes to the house.
That's a thing, right? Like, that's a thing, yeah.
Yeah, and like it kind of just makes me feel like the hotel is supposed to be this like thing that just sucks, like needs souls or something, you know. And that's why I felt like he really wasn't in control anymore when he was putting the videos, because you put those videos up, people are going to think they're fake, they're going to be intrigued, they're going to want to go, right? And so like I just.
So is he possessed at the end, or
I feel like that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then his little breakdown moment where he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen my friends in 2 weeks," and yada yada. Like I felt like that was like a breakthrough moment of control, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was manipulation, and it was meant to. I don't know.
I think you're supposed to ask that question.
Sure. No, I agree.
That's how I felt at the end. And I was annoyed because I didn't want to ask that question. I wanted them just to tell me. I was too tired by the end. I just wanted to know what was going on. But it was like they like left threads like, oh, because they took these pills and, you know, he had a really traumatic childhood. So like there were reasons to question what was going on.
Yeah, and I'm fine with these movies, these horror movies, regardless of the subgenre, that do this sort of video game approach. Like you have to read the letters, you have to get through it to figure out what's going on. I didn't have any problem with that, but the ending was very ambiguous. I think intentionally so, but maybe too much, maybe too ambiguous. But you said that, I feel like you said that about something else we watched.
I say that a lot. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I like clear cut. I like to know what happened at the end.
Yeah. I don't mind ambiguous, but it's like it does have to be, you have to have enough to at least not go, what the hell did I just watch? Like you have to have something.
I said that about what's the British one? We just were talking about it.
Ghostwatch?
Ghostwatch.
Oh, that's what it was. Too ambiguous.
Just like, yeah, it was like, okay, and it wasn't enough. It just like cut off intentionally. They cut it off right where they did. But
yeah, Tasha and I talk about that a lot, about these movies that end and like, it's good when you can have conversations. If it's sparking conversations, that's a good thing. But what it's not good is when no one knows what to talk about because no one understood what
everyone has a different interpretation. Yeah, about what happened.
Yeah, but anyway.
Followed. Please go. Please watch it.
It's on Tubi. It's also on Vudu.
And speaking of YouTubers you should subscribe to, Voices from the Mausoleum.
Yes. And hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes like these come out.
I don't know all the lingo, so you got to say it.
Well, so when I did my other channel, we said it at the end of every video, and it like never made a difference. So now I just do it periodically when I think about it.
Okay.
But I'm coming up on 200 subs, so I feel like
we're getting close.
Yeah, and these are doing really well. People are really liking these. So, yeah, and let us know what found footage movies you want us to talk about too.
In the comments below.
Maybe in the coming next couple of weeks, we'll do a series or something.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's our thoughts on Followed.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I don't know what we're talking about next, but you should probably.
We'll look at the list and we'll decide. Yeah. So you have to come back to see. Have a good rest of your weekend, and Tom and I will see you guys next Friday.
Bye.